I think that C.R. Ashby was an influence on Russell. Don't forget that Gordon Russell went to school in Chipping Campden. He saw that high street, he saw all the buildings, and he knew the story of Ashby. And it was at that period, and the idea of Ashby coming from the East End of London, bringing a group of craftsmen with him and working within a community and concentrating on making, it had a huge influence on a young mind. I think that Russell didn't seek to emulate Ashby, but the spirit of what Ashby was trying to achieve comes through in Gordon Russell's work. One of the most interesting things about Gordon Russell as one of the towering figures of British 20th century design is that in a sense he is caught between the past and the future. He was an expert on antiques. Indeed, he ran the antiques restoration workshop at the Lig and Arms when he came back from the First World War, and he was a real authority on the subject of the past. But gradually he changed his position. He started writing about why the future was more important than the past, and he became very angry about reproduction furniture. He actually wrote on one occasion in 1923, "Is there indeed so great a gulf fixed between the faking of houses and furniture and the faking of £5 notes? Are we to admire things because they are beautiful or because they are old?" And then 2 years later, in 1925, out of nowhere, he produced mysteriously this boot cupboard, which has the dimensions and simplicity. You could buy it in IKEA today. It really is absolutely fascinating how he switched from a reverence for the past to an understanding of what future production would all be about.
You can see a very straight line from Gimson and Barnsley looking at the chairs of Philip Clisset from Worcestershire in the 1880s, 1890s. You can see the linkage from Gimson and Barnsley and Ashby and moving down to the Chipping Campden. You can see the linkage of the people that Gordon started using as designers, including his brother, with all his connections in the modern movement, his brother Dick, that is. You see this linkage of people coming in who would have used the showroom, the architects like Lutyens and Herbert Baker. You see the linkage then of the firm of Russell, Hodgson and Leigh and what they were all working with all that euphoria, as I mentioned, at the Festival in Britain. But it was about personal individuals again. It is this extraordinary series of overlaps. It's like a series of birds' wings just laying one over the other. And it seems as though, in cultural terms, that is about artistic movements. But I think it's not. I think it's about people who share ideals and are motivated by the same kinds of ideals, albeit trying to make economic sense of it as well.
I realised that he was really at heart an arts and crafts man. I mean, the house itself had all the sort of characteristics that you would associate with the arts and crafts movement, and his early designs were clearly of the same style. But the thing which I both admired in him and found very interesting was that by the time I was involved with the company, we were designing really very modern furniture. And I always sort of wondered how comfortable he was with that. And I think he was entirely happy as long as we maintained one cardinal rule, which was to ensure that the furniture was made to the very highest standards of quality and the choice of materials was right, and we were sensitive really in our whole approach to design. I think as long as we satisfied in his mind those criteria, he was happy. And I think when also then takes into account, of course, that he'd overseen the whole of the utility furniture programme and subsequently went on to be director of the Design Council, where he was promoting modern design worldwide. It was fascinating that on one hand he took on board a totally modern approach and new styles of design, whilst at the same time in his own world, in his garden and in his stone carving and things that he was doing, he was still back with that arts and crafts way of life. Fascinating.